We'll continue news at this time to education as Nigeria joins the rest of the world to celebrate the International Day of Education. Stakeholders say lack of funding and supervision is worsening the quality of public education with overcrowded classrooms and overburdened teachers, among other issues. News Central's Omolola Olalade, she takes a look at the crisis rocking Nigeria's public education in this report. Take a look.
In Nigeria, government schools shape the dreams of millions. But behind the zeal to study and make the dreams valid lies a quiet struggle. While some of the students in public schools believe teachers remain their greatest asset, others say infrastructure remains their major challenge.
They used to teach better, and they used to make us understand like our maths, literature, biology.
Things that I need in the school that the government did not provide, like enough classrooms and chairs and enough facilities for students to be able to be comfortable in the school.
Although some parents believe public schools have improved over time, others are of the opinion that the quality of education have deteriorated in recent years.
In fact, we have done some research on most of these government schools recently in the primary and secondary schools. I can see that the standards have already improved. The standards have improved very, very high.
I think the level of concentration of the teachers is so poor compared to a private, because in a private school there is proper monitoring, and I think most private schools, they look into the activities of the children better than public school.
So I had to pull him out from after GS3, put him in a government school, only for me to discover that they don't have enough teachers. No art math teacher, no technical drawing teacher. He wanted to be an engineer. For that reason, you need TD to study engineering. He couldn't study engineering, he had to switch to computer science.
To understand the evolving landscape of public education in Nigeria, we turn to the voices of those who have experienced and is still experiencing it firsthand. Hassan Akintoye several years ago passed through a public school in the country and has risen to prominence, becoming the present chairman of the Nigerian Union of Teachers in Lagos, emphasizing that access to education is key.
If you have the best of teachers, are well-motivated teachers, who is actually contented and passionate with the job he's doing, where he's actually carrying out that activity may not really have effect if those factors are in place. So that children out there will have access to education rather than being denied.
A similar in other parts of the country, the head teacher of a community school in Abia State decries the alarming state of the school environment and its impact on learners.
I have more than 100 and something people here with just 4 classes, 4 classrooms, accommodating from nursery 1 to basic 6, and it's not comfortable for them. 3 classes in 1 class, nursery 1, 2, and 3 in 1 class. 2 classes being immersed, and it's not good for effective learning. The teachers and the learners are not finding it easy.
Nigeria's public education sector faces several challenges, from teacher shortage to infrastructural deficits, among many others. It is hoped that the government will prioritize public education in the country, as this infrastructural decay significantly impacts quality of education. In Lagos, for News Central, Omolola Ololade.
Let's gain deeper perspective into the issue of education in Nigeria. To do that, we're joined by immediate past Vice Chancellor of the University of Ibadan, Professor Idowu Olayinka. Professor, it's good to have you join us on the news this evening. I mean, from your experience as a university administrator, how would you assess the scale and root causes of infrastructural deficits across Nigerian public schools?
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. I've listened to the correspondence that you spoke to, and I think all of us are Nigerians and we live in this country. So it's very easy for us to relate with most of the issues. I mean, from nursery to university and the rest. I think the challenges are fairly well known. I mean, because we have quite a number of students or pupils in school, we also have a large battalion of out-of-school children. So it's a really very complicated issue. Some don't even have access to any school, not even a primary school. Some withdraw after primary school. And the issues, I mean, stare us in the face. Maybe lack of or inadequate facilities, aging facilities, some primary schools, even secondary schools, even universities, facilities are congested. I think it has a lot to do with funding and also the motivation of the teachers. I mean, a school system can only be as good as the quality of the teachers or instructors that implemented the government policy. So I think it's a very complicated, well, maybe not complicated, complex situation. Even in the southwestern Nigeria, we still have out-of-school children. Some 70 years after free primary education was introduced in 1955. So it's really very frustrating. And of course, we alluded to the issue, maybe in some states, they are trying to improve the quality of public primary schools and secondary schools, but a lot still remains to be done.
Let's talk about that, shall we? I mean, looking at the contributing factors to the persistent infrastructural gaps that we're seeing in the education today, what exactly would you say contributes to this from a federal, state, and local government level when we look at the current education funding model? I know that there's been sort of increases to the educational budget. I mean, dating back to late President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, but still we're still seeing these gaps. Talk to me about the contributing factors to the persistent infrastructure gaps.
Yeah, I think part of the problem is that, I mean, you cannot plan without adequate statistics, or even if your data are faulty. The population keeps increasing. And so, I mean, discussed with a governor of one of the northwestern states. This was in year 2018. I mean, he expressed his frustration that anytime the state government decided to build additional classrooms, there will be influx of students from other states. I mean, our borders are porous. So you have facilities for 10,000 students, just for purpose of argument. You now have on your hands a student which there are 30,000. So something we have to give with. So there's so much congestion. I mean, of course, it's good to have a massification. And coming down to be the specific, I think the political will has to be there on the part of the government to make sure that, I mean, if a large battalion of your age-goings, I mean, students should be in school, are out of school, they will not be able to contribute meaningfully to national development. They will constitute a nuisance to the rest of us in the society. So I think the political will has to be there. And then to encourage parents that, in fact, to make it, I mean, maybe state governments to make it mandatory for parents and guardians to send their awards and their children awards to school. Failing that, they will be prosecuted. Because, I mean, so the political will has to be there at every level. I mean, now, even at the university level, for example, of course, that's the higher level. You can see that public universities, whether owned by the federal government or state government, they've now introduced tertiary, I mean, a NEL fund, students, whereby students can take some loan. I mean, taking a loan is okay if your parents are not in a position to pay. It's still far, far better than for you to withdraw. And once someone has withdrawn from the formal educational sector, coming back to the mainstream could be a challenge. So at the primary school, secondary school level, I think we still need to do a lot more. The quality, people, I mean, because when students are coming out of secondary school, they should be fit for purpose. Maybe not all of them will be able to enter polytechnic, colleges of education or university, but they should be sufficiently literate and with IT and the rest of them to be useful to themselves and by extension to the larger society. So it needs a concerted effort by government and the rest of us, the citizenry.
Concerted efforts indeed. I mean, let's also look at some interventions that have happened over the years. There are intervention programs. We've seen the TEF fund, like you rightfully mentioned, but also multiple education policies. Some created, some were cancelled towards the end. We've seen different intervention programs and education policies with each administration and each appointment of a new Minister of Education. So why do infrastructure deficits persist despite these frameworks? Is it a case of not follow through, or is it just a case of no larger picture, or should I say a follow-through or consolidating on the past? What is it?
Well, I think the highest policy-making body for education in the country is the National Council on Education, in which the Commissioner for Education in all the 36 states and possibly the Federal Capital Territory they have a full membership. So I think it's at that level that policy statements are supposed to be made. But whether most of those policies are well grounded in thorough research work is another thing. You know, just like you rightly mentioned, over the last 2-3 years, we've had a lot of policy farmers thought, oh, to enter the university should be age 18, to do this should be age 17. That created a lot of crisis, so instability in the system. And, you know, it even creates a lot of doubts in the minds of parents and guardians and their children and wards who are entering the school. I mean, at every level. At what age should people enter the university? I mean, and the university also have autonomy. The Senate of the university should decide on this. But again, we cannot live in isolation. But that's why I think maybe things are even slightly better now under this current Minister of Education. Because even if you have a set of policies, the person who is implementing it can still make a lot of difference. All right. So, I mean, you can have good policies, but the implementer can, just like even at the university level, when you had the former Minister of Labour who said he was the conciliator. But this last one, now you see that the Minister of Education was fully in charge. Dr. Tunji Alausa was in charge. Whereas the other time, you didn't even know who was the Minister of Education. Rather, it was the Minister of Labour who claimed that he was the conciliator, whatever that means.
Right. Well, I must say thank you for taking out the time to join us and just giving us your insight as we continue to commemorate International Day of Education. The immediate past Vice Chancellor, University of Ibadan, Professor Idowu Olayinka, they're joining us virtually to just give us this insight.